Hello once again. In today's video I've got another vintage calculator to show you guys. This is a Sharp elsi-mate model EL-1610 printing calculator, and I believe this was made in 1986. This was the second of two printing calculators I got at a Value Village thrift run several months ago. I already recently made a video of this one, the Texas Instruments TI 5005 Mark IIB. And now I'm going to get to this one, which is quite a bit different in a couple of different ways. So this is not an adding machine, it is a standard calculator, but it's a printing calculator. You've got the roll of paper back here, and it prints onto the paper. It's an impact printer, like the Texas Instruments that I previously shown. So how the printer works is there's a rubber belt. I'll actually lift up this cover here. Here's the printing mechanism. This was made by Alps, and it's actually the same printing mechanism that's used in this calculator. It was a very common printing mechanism used in printing in battery-powered portable printing calculators from the mid-1980s up until the mid or late 2000s. It's got this rubber belt that runs around these two pulleys, and the belt has a little segment with a character on it. It's like each character is like a tiny rubber stamp. And it's got characters, it's got all the possible printable characters, it's got the numbers, plus, minus, a letter M for when you store something in memory, stuff like that. And then it's got this little print head, which is sort of like the print head in a daisy wheel typewriter. It's got a little mechanically driven hammer on it that punches the rubber stamp onto the paper, and that's how you print your characters. So it goes along step by step, and every time the appropriate rubber character stamp passes in front of the print head, it stamps it onto the paper. But then the question is, you need ink for that. How do you get your ink? Well, right here in the center of the screen, see if I can brighten that up a bit, there's a little ink-soaked wheel. It's a little sponge wheel that's soaked with ink, and it's spring-loaded against the rubber track, and so as the rubber track spins, it passes over this wheel and it rubs ink off onto the rubber track. So the rubber track is always wet with ink at all times. And like the Texas Instruments, when I got this calculator, the print was very, very faint. The ink roller had dried up. Now you can still buy replacement ink rollers for these. This was a standard ink roller used on many printing calculator printer mechanisms. Not just this Alps one, but there were other printing mechanisms that used the same ink roller. The most common name you'll find it under is Canon CP-12. So if you Google Canon CP-12, you'll find these replacement ink rollers, usually a generic brand for $5 or $6, which is pretty nice. But I discovered a way, well actually I didn't discover it, a coworker told it to me, and that's how I discovered it. A way to rejuvenate these ink rollers. You need to use a specific type of ink. Beforehand I tried different types of ink. I tried fountain pen ink, and they just didn't work. You know, it would be wet for a day or two and then it would just dry up. But it turns out stamp pad ink, the type of ink that goes in stamp pads that you use with a rubber stamp, that's the type of ink that you want to soak these ink rollers with to rejuvenate them. Stamp pad ink doesn't dry out and it stays held within the sponge material. So you can get a bottle of stamp pad ink for less than $10 in any color you want, and like the brand of stamp pad ink that we have at work is Trodat. It comes in a little bottle, and it's got a little spout that you can drop small drops of ink onto. So in my case, see, you just remove this ink roller. You can see it's a spongy material. I just took that bottle of Trodat ink, we have black ink at work, and I just put a little drop on the roller, and I used a toothpick to gently squish the roller to help the ink soak into it. I have found through trial and error that works a lot better than just dripping the ink onto it and letting it soak in itself. take a little toothpick or something small, a ballpoint pen, whatever, slightly depress the roller when you've got the ink drop on it to help the ink soak into it. Spin the roller a bit, apply another drop of ink, and if the roller's completely dry, 3 or 4 small drops of ink is all you need to completely rejuvenate it. And I did that to this roller and it's been working great. And then I just gotta line the roller up. And you will get your fingernails full of ink doing so, but there, just gotta line it up with the 2 pins and it snaps in place. And I get a bit of ink on me, but that's okay. Now, although these 2 printing calculators use identical printing mechanisms, they have a very significant difference, and that's the size of paper that they use. This Texas Instruments unit uses standard 2¼ inch wide paper, like adding machines use. This is the standard size of paper that all printing calculators, handheld or otherwise, have been using since pretty much the late 80s or early 90s. But this calculator uses smaller paper. It uses 1½ inch wide paper. And when battery-powered printing calculators started becoming a thing in the mid-1970s, this was the standard size of paper used for them. Larger adding machines and desktop printing calculators use the standard 2¼ inch paper, but handheld calculators use the 1½ inch paper. This 1½ inch wide paper started falling out of favor in the mid-1980s. That's when Texas Instruments in particular started switching to the standard 2¼ inch wide paper. And I have not seen any handheld printing calculators that use this smaller paper any newer than like the late 80s. It seemed to have really fallen out of favor. And that unfortunately means that it is a little hard to find replacement paper for this, because I don't think anybody sells the small paper rolls for calculators like this anymore. Here's what a new paper roll for this calculator and similar ones look like. It's 1½ inches wide, and it's also very small in diameter. Of course it has to be. There's only like 30 feet, 15 or 30 feet of paper on this. And you can't buy these new anymore. Nobody makes them because there's nothing new being made that needs these anymore. I bought half a dozen of these new old stock on eBay. I paid like $5 for these, which is pretty good, and they'll last me a long time, hopefully. So yeah, these are new old stock, and that's pretty much the only way you can go now. Luckily, there is quite a few new old stock packs of paper rolls like this on eBay for pretty reasonable prices. But luckily, there is one route you can go. You can still buy 1.5 inch calculator paper, but it's not on these small rolls. It's on big rolls that are like this big around, meant for cash registers and stuff. But the paper itself is still 1.5 inches wide. So the only thing you'll have to do, because of course the big rolls aren't going to fit in this, is manually unspool the paper and roll it into a new smaller spool that can fit in this calculator. But the good thing is you can buy like a 10-pack of these big rolls of 1.5 inch paper for like 10 or 20 bucks, and that's enough paper to do you the rest of your life. But yeah, so although purpose-made rolls of paper like this aren't made anymore, there are luckily other routes to keep printing calculators like this that use the smaller size paper fed with paper for at least the next long while. You'll also find slightly bigger paper rolls like this. This will not fit in this calculator. Paper like this was made for Canon's early handheld printing calculators, like the Canon P3D, nudge nudge, hint hint, wink wink. So you'll find the slightly bigger rolls like this. It's still 1.5 inch paper, but it is slightly different in size, and it won't fit in this particular calculator. But same thing, I could just manually unspool this if I had to and roll it into a smaller spool to fit in this calculator. So looking at the calculator physically, it is impressively sleek and modern looking for being a printing calculator from the mid-80s. This really is a very impressive design. Compare this to the Texas Instruments, which is 7 years newer, and the Texas Instruments is way chunkier. Get you a side-on comparison here. You can see the sharp is way sleeker. That could be due to the fact that it uses a narrower paper, but I wouldn't think so because the printer mechanism itself is exactly the same between these two calculators, and that I think would be the deciding factor in how thick the calculator needs to be. So I think it was just a matter of design. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the design of this calculator. I like the translucent printer cover. Very, very nice. Looking on the back here, this takes 4 AA batteries. It was made in Japan. Here's your serial number. So looking at the keypad, this calculator is 99% just an ordinary calculator. Unlike the Texas Instruments, which has rounding setting, decimal point setting, it's got gross profit margin functionality. This calculator lacks all that stuff. The only keys it has that differentiates it from a non-printing ordinary calculator is it's got the paper feed key to advance the paper roll, which is pretty necessary on a calculator like this. And it does have a non-add key, which in this case is labeled not with a pound sign, but with a letter P for print. So Sharp would have called this the print key, but it is a non-add key, meaning if you press this key, it immediately prints whatever's on the display. It does no calculation to it, and it does have a print, no print key. This turns the printer on and off. And that's it. No adding machine-like or financial-like functions on this like the Texas Instruments. It is very much a basic calculator that happens to be able to print. And that's cool too. So let's get to demonstrating this. We'll turn it on. And it's just a normal calculator, except it can print. Looks like the 3 and the 6 got a little too much ink there. I did do a very good job soaking that ink roller with ink, so it might still be a little bit oversaturated. But yeah, it's just a normal calculator that can print. So when there's an error condition, it prints a few dashes, and then it prints out the junk number. And on the display you got the letter E. There are a few enunciators on the display. There's a P there to show when the printer's turned on. If I press the print, no print, oh, I gotta clear it first. If I press the print, no print key, the print indicator goes away and it's just a normal calculator. I like how you can clear the error condition and the junk number is still there. Can I perform a calculation on that? Yes, I can. So you can. I like vintage calculators that do that. When there's an error condition and the number shown is just junk, you can clear the error condition and work with the junk number as if that was useful at all. I think that's really hilarious. Turn the printer back on. If I just press the P key, it'll just print whatever's on the display. Just like that. We've got memory, so we've got 3 key memory, add to memory, subtract from memory, and a combined recall and clear memory key. And this is the part, yada yada yada. I prefer 4 key memory, blah blah blah, whatever. So we'll add this to memory. And you can see the printer prints out an M+. If I hit subtract from memory, you see you get an M-. If I press the clear key, the printer prints out a 0 with a little star to show a clear condition. And if I press the combine recall clear memory key, we get a memory recall. And that's interesting. Oh, because I subtracted from memory. Yeah, so there was nothing in the memory. I'll put something in memory. And then clear it. And I press recall memory. And it recalls it. If I press the recall memory key again, it clears the memory. And if we look at the printer, advance that a bit, because there's a bit of purple whoops, purple staining on the window there. The original ink color was purple, and I refurbished the roller with black ink. But you can see when you recall the memory, it shows a diamond M. On a normal adding machine, diamond means show the subtotal. But in the case of this calculator, because it's not an adding machine, the diamond's been purposed to mean recall memory, and the star has been purposed to mean clear. So star M, clear memory. And really, that's about it. It's a standard calculator. If I want to add tax to something, like if we go $9.99, and what's 15% sales tax on that? $9.99 plus 15%. So in advance paper again. So add 15% tax to $9.99, and there's your total after tax, $11.48 and some. I think I can use the percentage key for multiplying too, like what's 10% of 20? 20 times 10%, and that's 2. And you can see it shows the percent symbol there. We've printed out quite a bit of paper here. There's a built-in cutter on the window here, so it's a two-handed job, but I can just cut the paper like that. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to show. Like I said, it's a very basic calculator. Sharp did not go out of their way to add adding machine-like functionality like Texas Instruments did on the TI 5005 Mark IIB. But that's okay. It's a very nice calculator. I like how small and sleek it is for a printing calculator, and it's just super convenient. It works really well. I am kind of a sucker for the smaller paper size, even though it's harder to buy replacement paper for. I just think it's kind of cute. But yeah, it's a really nice mid-80s printing calculator. It's basic, it gets the job done, and it's a very nice design, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.